saying to them, you can attack on me, not on her. I'm defending her. And they tortured him, they destroyed his body, and he survived. We were under bombing of the NATO, but at the same time we had a war on the ground. But not war between our armed forces and the NATO forces. We had a war of secret police and the intelligence of Milosevic regime against opposition. And that was a very bizarre situation, very dangerous situation. When they saw me early morning, my face, they said, we have to arrest you. And I told them what we are going to do right now. The chief of that police unit have said, we are going to spend a wonderful time in our homes. We are going to do nothing right now. And after a few days, I became a minister of telecommunication, and that is a history. This is part of our job. It's normal. This is normal. I mean, if you are president or prime minister in the country that is facing with such a problem, and you think that you are going to be totally secure in your life, you are very naive, you are not very, very much intelligent, as I said to you.
I understood this is my duty. This is my duty, and Zoran Đinđić was assassinated by...
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Politically Active Podcast. My name is Salko, and I will be your host for this episode. And the first episode is with Boris Tadić, the former President of Serbia. Boris Tadić was born in Sarajevo in 1958. He was a Minister of Telecommunications, then Minister of Defense, and finally was elected as President of Serbia and Montenegro in 2004, re-elected in 2008 as President of Serbia, and finished his term in 2012. I hope you'll enjoy this episode. What is your earliest political memory?
I used to be 10 years old, and I was participating in kind of festival, manifestation, celebration of the birthday of the President of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito, in that time, on the stadium of Yugoslav army, and I was in the first round, and after doing that I was very happy, like all kids 10 years old, and I came to my home, and I said to my parents that I was very happy, and that President Tito is a fantastic person. And I remember that the faces of my parents changed in a second, because I felt that something is wrong in my statement. And after a few minutes, I entered once again in the room where they had been talking to each other, asking them, do we have any problem with the President Tito? And they said, it's not real problem. We are not going to talk about that. And I felt that is something not functioning properly. And after that, I was starting to think about such a experience and such a conversation with my parents, and that was my first experience. And 1 month after that, that was in the May 1968. 1 month after that, I was in the school, but night before that, I felt that something's happening in my home, and my teacher was asking me how is my father, and I started to cry. I felt something, but I didn't know what I'm feeling, and I was starting to cry. I didn't know why I'm crying. After many years, I discovered what happened. My father was tortured by the police because he was defending, during the students' demonstration in 1968, his students on the university, and the police was attacking on him immediately. That was one student, a lady, very young lady, and he approached the policemen, and by saying to them, you can attack on me, not on her. I'm defending her. And they tortured him, they destroyed his body, and he survived. But after many years, I was reading article in some newspapers, students' newspapers from that time, where they described that event, and those two very emotional moments were my first experience with the politics. And that is what I can tell you right now about my beginning with the politics.
Your beginning. And what was your first protest after that?
I remember that was a very painful experience, but day by day I started to understand the complexity of the politics and something which is very difficult for young human being, and because in that time we didn't have a multi-party system and possibility to discuss different political issues from different angles, but we had a kind of unanimosity which was very specific. For example, in my school, I've been facing with my friends that has been laughing because they said, your father is going to lose his job, you are going to have a problem with your existence, and they were laughing because your kids are very brutal. When I'm meeting right now my friends from the school, they are also laughing, but from the different point of view right now, and they are criticizing themselves about the statements in that time, but that is very specific. I understand them. They were also under kind of propaganda. I was under kind of propaganda in my family. Two propagandas at the same time. That was a big influence on the very young human beings, and that was my experience in my school. But day by day, I was entering the politics, and finally, no one was expecting that I'm going to be in a position to be president of my country. But even I didn't expect myself to be president of my country. I never intended to be president of my country, because from my childhood, from my period when I was 10 years old, I was always fighting in my thoughts against the presidents and the leaders. And finally I became such person.
And you also became a president within 2 years. You went from Minister of Telecommunications to, a year later, Minister of Defense to President. What was that journey like? And how did you even get to that position so quickly?
Before becoming Minister of Telecommunication, we've been participating in campaigning against Milosevic in that time, and after elections in September 2020, he didn't recognize the results of elections. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we organized demonstrations on the street. And one day, because as an outcome of elections, I was elected as a member of the parliament for the people living in surround Belgrade. That was area where I was participating in campaigning. But that area was very important for Belgrade and Serbia, because that was an area where we had the minings, and coal minings, and also thermal power plant. And miners and the workers in the thermal power plant were inviting me as a new member of the parliament to participate on their own demonstrations there. And I was there, and that was September 2000. And because of that, leadership of Yugoslavia in that time, especially from our armed forces, Chief of General Staff, was accusing me because of bringing Serbia in a very difficult situation in terms of defense, defending system and everything else, because I was participating on demonstrations of miners, and they were very much important for producing of electricity. But we didn't have any problem with producing of electricity, but that was the way how they were putting pressure on the opposition leaders. I was one of them. And the minimum sentence for that, for my participation on that demonstrations in a mining in Kolubara, very famous mining in Serbia in that time, very important for production of electricity also, was the minimum sentence was 10 years jail and maximum was 20 years jail. That means September 2000, I was participating in elections. I was elected as a member of the parliament. I was participating on demonstrations with Serbian miners, for example, the end of September, 6 days after elections, because Milosevic didn't recognize results of elections. October the 5th, we had huge demonstrations in the center of Belgrade in order to put a pressure on him to recognize results of elections. 2 days after that, he recognized results of the elections, but I was at the same time in a situation to be arrested because of police. And when we participating on such demonstrations, when police was discovering that I'm there, they were in charge to arrest me. But 2 days after that, I was leading police forces in capturing criminals that were trying to get a kind of benefits from the institutions, for example, from the institutions that were close to the headquarters of Serbian Socialist Party, Milosevic Party. For example, one museum was next to the headquarters of Socialist Party, and I was running with a special police unit in order to block the criminals to get the gold from the museum. And when they saw me early morning, my face, they said, "We have to arrest you." And I told them what we are going to do right now. The chief of that police unit have said, "We are going to spend a wonderful time in our homes. We are going to do nothing right now." And after a few days, I became a minister of telecommunication, and that is a history and a short journey from September 2000, when I was in a very difficult situation and being dangerous to be arrested and to spend 20 years in the jail. And after that, because of nothing, I was only supporting the workers in order to defend their own rights, because that was my responsibility, because I was elected as an MP. In that moment, I was defending their rights. And after that, I became a minister of telecommunication. After that, our prime minister Zoran Đinđić was killed by security forces. That was March 2003, and a few days after that, I became a minister of defense in order to organize investigations about whether someone from the military was involved in his assassination, and also to create reforms of the armed forces in accordance with the international standards and NATO standards in that time. And just 1 year after that, I became a president of Serbia, because we decided in my political party that we didn't have any alternative than to engage me and to run this campaigning. But no one was expecting that I'm going to win, but I did it. And I did this time and next time in 2008, 2 times.
Were you afraid for your life after you were Minister of Defense? Organizing?
Salko, we didn't think about that.
You didn't think about that?
We didn't think about that. We had a group of the people that were determined to do everything what is possible, what is necessarily to create better society in Serbia. We were committing ourselves to do something for our country, for our people. And this is why we've been facing with the many difficulties and very dangerous situation during the Milosevic period. Zoran Đinđić, because of that, had to escape from Serbia during the NATO bombing, because we got information that maybe secret police is going to kill him during the bombing. That happened with some journalists, for example, Slavko Čuruvija. And he escaped from Belgrade, going to Montenegro, being protected by our friends in Montenegro. There was a much more secure situation than in Belgrade. and because secret police was using that situation, that circumstances, in order to kill, to eliminate the opponents of the Milosevic regime. We were under bombing of the NATO, but at the same time we had a war on the ground, but not war between our armed forces and the NATO forces. We had a war of secret police and the intelligence of Milosevic regime against opposition, and that was a very bizarre situation, very dangerous situation for all of us, and this is why we were committing ourselves to do everything what we can, and even we had for example, 30, 40 people that were in the leadership of our political forces that were totally determined to take all risks on their own shoulders for their lives, because we truly believed in that time that we are fighting for something which is extremely important for the future of our nation and our people.
How long was this fight? So year 2000 is when you won the fight.
No, I was involved in the politics as a student. I was a member of one, let's say, semi-legal organization in the end of the 70s and 80s, and we were fighting for democracy. And in that time, that was Yugoslavia, and we had a group of the people, students from Zagreb, Sarajevo, Ljubljana, and Belgrade. We had a communication, very friendly and very interesting intellectual communication regarding democracy, regarding future of our country in that time, and that, year by year, decade by decade, I was much more and more involved in the politics, not only as a young intellectual, but also as a political activist. Finally, I became a member of the Democratic Party, which was the main opposition party of Milosevic, one of the main opposition party of the Milosevic regime in that time. And when you are participating in such activities and such political procedures, finally you understand that you are in a high risky situation, because you had to understand that on the other side is a very dangerous secret police, very dangerous system, which was treating opposition as an enemy of the state, not as a political opponent in democratic system, and they were always able to treat you as a potential target. And that was our situation in which we were living. That was the atmosphere in which we were living, and for us that wasn't something very strange. When you are living in such situation every day for years and maybe decades, finally you cannot be surprised that someone would like to kill you, for example. Otherwise you are not very intelligent. But because you see that those people are killing people that are opponent of the regime and that are fighting the regime in that time, and that was our situation. But finally, we took over power from Milosevic, political party, and that was a political transformation. And finally, we started to talk about politics with the people that were members of that party, and after a few years, we became once again coalition partners with them, which is a quite bizarre situation in politics. Sometimes you are afraid that whether your political rivals are going to kill you, but after a few years trying to change them and all circumstances in your political society, because those people, even after 5 years, had a significant support from our electorate, 15, 20%, 30% of supporters. You had to find a compromise with them, but we did it on our agenda. Our agenda was European integrations, and they accepted something that they violated only a few years ago. They opposed only a few years ago, and finally they became our coalition partners, but they changed their political strategy, which was significant success, really. When you are convincing your rivals, your main opponents, to change political strategy and to accept your proposals, this is big victory.
How do you do this? How did you do
explaining to them? Also they understood the new reality, because all Balkan countries were intending to become member state of European Union. In that time, European Union was also a dream for everyone. That was the best place for living. Even today, even though European Union is facing with significant problems right now, the situation is much more difficult than in that time. That was 2000, 2001, 2004, 2008, and in that time we didn't have economic crisis which affected whole world. That was 2008, 2009, but we didn't have a war in Ukraine in that time. That was even Russia was intending to be part of the Western world in that time. Putin have said maybe one day Russia is going to be a member of the NATO. That was beginning of the 21st century, and finally our opposition in that time, but a few years before that, ruling party, Milosevic party, changed their political orientation. Now they are still in favor of European integrations.
Mm-hmm. I see. So they changed because
They
the
changed,
circumstances changed as well.
Circumstances changed, and also we were trying to explain to them this is better, not only for them but for the country, and they accepted it finally.
Okay, and how do you transition? How did the country transition from Milosevic, where there was an embargo, to opening up, going towards Europe, towards the West? How did that shift happen? How was it leading that shift?
That happened because we defeated Milosevic, and we formed a very wide coalition, so-called DOS, Democratic Opposition of Serbia, which was formed by 16 parties, something like that. And but problem started to be even more painful for our society and us who were Democrats and fighting for democracy in Yugoslavia and after that in Serbia for many, many decades, because some of our coalition partners became very much anti-European Union membership during the terms. For example, Vojislav Koštunica, who defeated Milosevic on elections, presidential elections in 2000, which was very important for us, who got a East-West award in New York in that time. He was one of the most popular politicians in the Western world in that time. After Western world started to put a huge pressure on Serbia regarding Kosovo, encouraging Kosovo Albanians to declare independence from Serbia, he started to be totally anti-European membership because he was totally disappointed because of approach of the Western world towards Serbia and the democracy in Serbia, and he became one of the strong opponents to the European Union integration of Serbia. And that is happening. I mean, that is happening in politics and in history, and which is a bizarre situation. But people from Milosevic party, who were main opponents of European Union membership, that involved Serbia in the war against NATO. I mean, NATO attacked on us without any resolution of United Nations, which was violation of international law. This is for sure. But at the same time, politics of Milosevic was a conflict with the NATO before that happened. And those people became pro-European politicians. But people that has been running campaign against Milosevic became because of Kosovo issue and the Western collective West approach to the Kosovo issue, supporting Kosovo independence. They became very much anti-European Union membership. This is a bizarre situation and transformation. You're asking me about transition process, but this is also part of the transition process, and which was putting huge pressure on all Democrats and all pro-Europeans and the people that has been fighting nationalism in our country and in the region, that were always in favor of peace and the reconciliation. That was huge pressure on all of us, that created almost unsustainable situation, politically unsustainable situation. And right now, I'm not sure that this transition process is coming to the end, maybe to kind of end. Maybe this is a never-ending story. Because we didn't become a member state of European Union. This is 24 years after we started to try to become member state. This is, I think, almost 10 years we are negotiating about membership. We are not closer. This is kind of asymptotic curve, you know. We are approaching, but never
quite get there, yes.
never touching.
Never touching, yes.
And this is very bizarre and very dangerous situation. When I used to be president of Serbia, 70% of people supported membership of European Union. Nowadays, even though we had on the power former Milosevic party and former allies of Milosevic on the power, and even though they changed their policy during my term, accepting our geostrategical orientation to become member state of European Union, to go towards West, those people reduced number of the people that are supporting European Union membership. Formally, this state is on the way towards European Union. But from 70% of people that supported that orientation during my terms, right now we have a 40%, less than 50%, the threshold, that are supporting European Union integrations, which means transition process can be in a very difficult situation, and maybe Serbia is not going to become member state of European Union, which is going to affect not only Serbian people and people that has been dreaming, like me, that one day we can be democratic country with the European Union standards, and maybe we can fail in that respect.
I see. Well, let me ask you this. So, European Union, the West, was difficult. You disagreed with them over some major issues. But you were still pro-European. Is that correct?
Of course. I still truly believe that Serbia has to go towards values that were established in the western part of the world. This is democracy, human rights. This is about individual rights. What about citizens and their role in political system? What about political parties? And what about multi-party system? But what I'm witnessing right now, I see that also the Western world is a failing. The Western world is not same world like it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I see kind of transformation and transition in the Western world, which is very specific, you know, and that is something very strange. I remember in 1970s, 60s, when USSR has been conquering and occupying Czechoslovakia in that time, because of political leadership in that time, that was Dubček in Czechoslovakia, opposed its very brutal and very stubborn and very anti-democratic system in USSR and all countries that were part of the Warsaw Alliance. And we in Yugoslavia, under Tito's regime, had a much more flexible regime in that time. I was an anti-Josip Broz Tito, but I have to recognize that we had a much more democracy and liberalism in our country than those people living in Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and USSR. And in that time, USSR leadership has been proclaiming the limited sovereignty. And I was very young, but I understood this is something incredible. That one country is explaining that because of they considered limited sovereignty in the area where they have an interest, they can enter with their armed forces and to conquer independent country, even though they close ally. But how they can conquer such a country, even though ordinary people are opposing to that. But limited sovereignty is also nowadays characteristic, and it's characterizing also Western world. Limited sovereignty, that is what we experience in Serbia. Limited sovereignty, violation of our sovereignty over Kosovo. And we are facing with a lot of dilemmas right now, and what's going on. If that was the main characteristic of USSR, which was anti-democracy and multi-party system in 1960s, 70s, 80s, right now we have the same standards and the same values that are somehow adopted by the Western world, which is, from my point of view, totally unacceptable.
But you still wanted to negotiate with them. You still wanted to move towards them. So
I will explain to you.
Explain.
Because even though I see so many problems on the West, even though I'm attacking politically on my colleagues on the West, I think still the Western world is the best world where we can live. European Union is a more secure, more humanistic, more prosperous than all other parts of the world. Whoever is underestimating China and India, which are also on transition process, is a failing. Whoever is starting to analyze the world from the podium of arrogancy, which is unfortunately characterizing nowadays the Western world, is going to fail. And this is why I have a real concerns about future of the Western world. Even though I have concerns about future of the Western world, we are parts of that culture. We are part of that world. We are not a part of the, let's say, Eastern world. The political system in China you cannot implement in Serbia. Political system of Russia nowadays you cannot implement in Serbia. And this is what I have to say right now. But it doesn't mean that I cannot criticize Western world when I see that Western world is a failing and also dismantling the foundation of democracy that has been existing for decades after Second World War.
So it's like you have these core values are the same,
Of course,
and that's
values and the foundation of the Western world. We still have a chance to transform the Western world in a better way, but I have real concerns whether that is going to be possible regarding current development and the situation, the conflicts we are witnessing. Conflict in Ukraine and very dangerous conflict, Hamas and Israel, which is bringing whole civilization in the clash, two different civilizations in the clash, which can destroy the whole world.
Now, taking a step back, we're also in a transitional period. Many countries are transitioning. What advice do you wish you had gotten as a transitional leader?
Every transitional leader has to think about his own country and to think about specific characteristics of his own country, and also to be very strict and to say to the other countries, for example, European Union countries, which are the red lines for its own country. We are different. I mean, if the European Union, for example, I'm not talking about United States, which is different political system, but if in European Union political leaders are not able to understand that we are not totally the same, we are going to lose huge opportunity nowadays to be really also in the future kind of the leader in the world where we are living. And to be leader not in terms of having more power and tools in our hands to impose what we want in other countries, but to be moral leader and to be leader of the world that can be helpful for other countries and other political cultures. And this is very important to show tolerance and to show ability to be a really leader and to cooperate with other countries in the world. This is very, very important. And if in European Union we have a majority of the current leaders that would like to create unanimous system which is not going to be flexible for differences, we are going to fail. And we are witnessing many failures that happened in European Union in the past few decades. Look, the issue of Turkey. We refuse Turkey. I mean, I'm saying we. They refuse Turkey. By refusing Turkey, European leaders who accepted to negotiate with the Turkey many decades ago, by refusing Turkey, European leaders didn't offer any alternative to the dialogue between Islam and Christianity. And European Union has been reducing their vision on the very limited vision of political civilization. That was a Huntington strategy defined in his book, Clash of Civilization. By doing this, the Western world, I'm talking about European Union, is going to lose opportunity to be interlocutor and to be much more powerful and much stronger in the future. But not because of using military tools, but because using arguments and because of being able to be communicator between different cultures. And this is very important. Whoever is losing that opportunity is a losing chance to be a really global leader. I'm very sorry because I see that President of China, Xi Jinping, whenever he's talking about Initiative Belt and Road, he's talking about mutual benefit. He's talking about mutual understanding. He's talking about not clash of civilization, but cooperation between civilization, which was Silk Way in its own beginning. And right now, once again, and I see many problems right now for the Western civilization, and I would like to see the European Union to be a really leader also in the future. We need in the future European Union which can be stronger and more useful, a European Union that can fulfill the visions of the founder fathers of European Union, which was able to find a solution for the country that has been always involved in the conflict, like France and Germany. And right now, European leaders are not, I'm sorry, but I have to say, European Union leaders are not showing in a crystal clear form that they are able to be interlocutors between rivals and enemies, which is the main role of European Union, I think, today. We cannot see that in the war in Ukraine. We cannot see that in the war in Palestine, in Israel. We cannot see that in every conflicting zone in the world nowadays. I'm very sorry because of that.
What is missing in the European Union for them to be able? What leadership qualities are missing?
I think that the whole world is facing with a kind of, specific predictabilities. We are living in an unpredictable world, but we can find a kind of predictabilities, like climate changes. Our famous scientist Milutin Milankovic was defining the kind of rules in terms of climate change. That was oscillatory curve. This is also like in politics. We have an oscillatory curve. Western civilization was on the top of civilization, formally for 200 years after discovering steam machine. China lost their own primacy and supremacy in that period, unfortunately, because China was always on the top of civilization in the history of the mankind. But we were, as the Western civilization, we were on the top in past 200 years. But at the same time, we are always forgetting that within that period, even though we had a technological advance, we had in terms of economic kind of, and in terms of the, military aspect also, kind of supremacy. We had also oscillatory curve that during that period, the Western civilization discovered two brutal political system like fascism and the Bolshevism that has been destroying our own civilization. And we don't have a kind of self-criticism, which is necessarily to understand that we earned always on the top of civilization, but we also be on the top of the civilization that has been destroying whole civilization. Not only Western, but all other civilization during the Second World War, for example, and during the Stalin period, during the Hitler and Stalin period. And we have an oscillatory curve. Right now, we also have after the Second World War, we had a kind of rising of the political leaders. You know, De Gaulle, Truman, and other big, Willy Brandt, Palme. We can remind ourselves about real leaders. Where are those people in the European Union nowadays? We cannot find them. Maybe because we don't have an atmosphere and political culture which is encouraging the right people to enter into the politics. Maybe structure of politics is changing. Maybe politics is right now filled where only young people without real mission to do something for their own country, for all other people, would like to participate. Maybe we have only victory of egoism and narcissism right now, in accordance with the technological changes and also changes in the media and the very specific sciences that are creating supremacy right now. Maybe artificial intelligence, media sector, neuroscience. Look how all those fields of science are very useful for very specific politicians and very dangerous people that are participating in politics. This is what is concerning me very much.
Oh yeah, I see. Now, there seems to be a lack of humility, a lack of self-criticism. Now, let me also go back to your domestic politics, which was one big part where you cooperated with the West, was in fighting organized crime in Serbia. What was that like?
That was a part of transition process. During my term, right now I have to change my mind, and I'm always thinking about the world and how we can contribute to the peace and reconciliation process and to find solutions for the conflicting zones all around the world, and that are very dangerous. Looking on the map, we can find not only these two, Ukraine and Palestine, but also we can find dozens of conflicting zones that can burden whole world nowadays. But also organized crime is one of the field we are facing with as a kind of very dangerous zone, and we have a very strong international alliance among the organized crime and the organized criminals from every country. Yugoslavia in that time and Serbia were just leaving the period of the war. And whenever some countries are facing with a war, one of the outcome of that are former soldiers and policemen who are leaving their services and they don't know what to do for their lives. And also they are facing with a kind of demand coming from the dirty criminals to join them. As an outcome of the war, we had also strength of organized crime in Serbia, Montenegro, and former Yugoslavian countries. And those criminals didn't find really opportunities in our own countries to earn money because we were poor after war. But they participated in a global arena, and they easily found their colleagues and the clients in other parts of the world, in the Latin America, United States, and the richer European Union countries. And we've been facing with a huge problem because those criminals became very active. and very rich in the short period of time because they were successful in trafficking cocaine from Latin America and heroin from Afghanistan. And Balkan was a crossroad, a very specific zone, and when we got the information for the Western intelligences that we have a group of the people that are participating in those kind of global transactions and global transportations, we've been shocked. We didn't know that. Because those people has been participating in global arena, but they've been living in Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia, and other countries. And but here they became so-called investors. They got money from trafficking. They started to invest in media sector, in minings, in agriculture, in schools, universities. This is incredible. When I discovered where they invested, I understood that was a strategy to earn money from trafficking of cocaine or heroin and to invest money in the fields, in the zones that are very important for the society. By investing, they are becoming inevitable political force, not only economic force in our country. That was strategy. That was strategy. But when we discovered them, in accordance with our cooperation with the DIA and CIA and all other intelligences from MI6, for example, were they from Germany, we started to fight them without any tolerance. But by doing this, during these operations, we discovered where they're investing money, what they are doing, what is their strategy, in fact. And that was big fighting. And we were very close to destroy them. Within 4 years of extremely tough fighting with them, unfortunately, we didn't have such a cooperation with other neighboring countries. And also with some countries from European Union, because they were very tolerant to some of them. And because whenever we've been very close to arrest them, they found a way to escape. Because they had a kind of allies in different countries, because they were operating internationally from the Latin America, where they took drugs in their ships, Atlantic Ocean, entering in the Mediterranean. Every police was in charge and intelligence to fight them, but not every police was fighting them. And that was the problem. When they entered in some harbor, we were expecting, by sharing intelligence information with those police and those intelligences, that they are going to arrest them and to check what they have as goods on their ships. But they didn't do that, always. And that was disappointing me very much, because we were putting a lot of energy in that, we invested a lot of energy in that, and a lot of people working in our intelligence and police took a risk on their shoulders for their own life. It was very dangerous when we were very close to arrest them in cooperation with our security forces in Europe, that those people has been escaping from us. Always, and many times. Finally, we arrested many of them. And right now we have a procedure in the court against them, but this is also a never-ending story, which is bringing me in a very specific situation, not to truly believe that all intelligences and security forces are still fighting them, but also somehow cooperating with them. Because those people are very rich. Very rich. They have billions and billions. Yes. They can change every government. By investing the money in campaigning and something like that. But that's it. That is the reality in which we are living. Maybe I was very much naive when I was president. I was fighting them without any reserve.
And this also put a target on you.
Not only on me, especially on the policemen and the people working in intelligence. This is part of our job. It's normal. This is normal. I mean, if you if you are president or prime minister in the country that is facing with such a problem, and you think that you are going to be totally secure in your life, you are very naive, you are not very much intelligent, as I said to you.
But some people would choose not to do anything, to ignore the problem.
Yes.
Why do you choose not to ignore the problem?
I mean, what to say, we are not the same. I mean, some politicians are in their offices because of trying to reach kind of benefits. Some politicians are committing themselves to do for their own countries and the international arena. I mean, we have a very different motives. We have a very different psychological characteristics. We are very different. I mean, it's like in all other professions, you know. Not every doctor is a really man who is committing himself to find a solution for the patients, for the people that are facing with a health problem. Some of them are enjoying to be doctors because this is kind of privilege, you know. I mean, everyone is respecting doctors, but some of them are really working on solving problem. Day and night, day and night, day and night. Those people are incredible. They're different. Also policemen. Dirty policemen and real policemen. Can you imagine a real policeman who is risking his life, fighting every day, sitting in the office next to the dirty policeman, who is cooperating, who is corrupted by the criminals? Can you imagine his life? And sometimes within that police unit, dirty policemen are much stronger. And they are attacking on the honest policeman who is fighting organized crime every day. And they are putting them in the situation which is unsustainable by saying, he is a dirty policeman. Yeah. Situation is not very fair. But that's it. That's the life which we have.
But okay, so politicians are also like that. How do you pick,
exactly?
How do you pick allies? How do you pick people?
I wasn't very good at that. I failed many times with that because sometimes after 12 years of being president of Serbia, I don't know how I survived because I see what my allies in that time are doing right now. That was, I mean, but to be very frank with you, I wasn't very good in that. I have to criticize myself. But some of them were, some of my allies were very, very good, and they're still suffering because of their convictions and their work. But that's it. I know many people, many great politicians that has been surrounded by very bad allies.
Really?
Yes, that's it. That's it. That is the destiny of the also very good politicians. I mean, you are not by being president, political leader. You're not a headhunter. Someone has to suggest to you something and to work because you are deeply anchored and involved in finding solutions, and you don't have enough time to find the people, and sometimes you're asking someone to help you, and when those people are bringing some people, maybe those people were really right people at the beginning, but being in a politics, being in a position to be very powerful, because politics is bringing power, they are changing their mind. Human beings are very specific, you know. Human beings are changing, depend on the atmosphere and the circumstances where they are living.
How did you not change your mind? What kept you?
I hope that I didn't change my mind.
You hope you didn't.
I hope it. I hope it. I still think that I didn't change my mind and my values. I still think that I didn't change. Maybe some people are criticizing me by saying you changed your mind. We remember you from the school. You was different person and something like that. I remember my friends from my school. Some of them were very unhappy with me as a president of Serbia because I didn't help them to do something which wasn't in accordance with the law. But they expected me. Why you are president if you cannot help us to get a kind of benefit. But that is also normal for the human beings. That is sometimes happening. Also, people are asking you to help them, which was in accordance with the law. You have to do that. This is normal. But you are not in a position to work on positive discrimination. Also, negative and positive discrimination can be sometimes not in accordance with the legal system.
Yes.
That is what you have to take into consideration when you are president or prime minister. Salko, when you are going to be president of your country, please take this into the consideration.
Thank you, sir. But did your friends from high school, from college, did they help you stay grounded during the time you were president? Did you have anything like that?
When I became a minister of telecommunication, I've been facing with a real problem. Because in that time in my country, no one was even able to understand that minister of telecommunication is not engineer of telecommunication. He is not in charge to put antennas and to provide a technical system which is going to provide the communication by mobile. But many people were thinking Minister of Telecommunication has to be engineer of telecommunication. Minister of Health has to be doctor. Minister of who has to be president of the country? The man who graduated political sciences. That is a very limited approach to the politics, and without any understanding of really substance of politics, because politics is also expertise. Very specific and very complex expertise. But when I became a minister of telecommunication, I didn't know a lot about telecommunication system. Okay, even though I refused firstly to become minister of telecommunication, because I was expecting that my party is going to bring someone who is going to be more connected with the system. I'm a psychologist, which is in fact foundation of every communication. But I've been facing with the many problems because of the fact we promised by fighting Milosevic to create government of experts, which wasn't very intelligent promise, but okay, we promised. And I've been facing with the problem how to explain to ordinary people that I'm a psychologist and I'm Minister of Telecommunication. And I was asking my friend to help me, who was the best student of telecommunication and my friend from my early young period of my life. And he came to my office and he started to teach me. And lesson by lesson. And every day we've been working together about frequency spectrum, about the procedure of transformation, of sending signals, how that is triggered. And that was interesting to me because I understood this is very similar to neuropsychology, which I was studying as a student of psychology, because of signals and electricity and the transportation of the signals. And that was also interesting to me to understand a wider perspective of the telecommunication. And what is a bizarre situation, even now, after many years, after being Minister of Telecommunication 2000 and 2001. Right now, 23 years after that, I am an advisor of telecommunication company. And I'm working in telecommunication sector in terms of digitalization, political system, education, and something like that, because telecommunication is also an issue of connectivity. And when we are talking about connectivity, that has an impact in every different system. I mean, also education, and I'm a psychologist, and I'm helping not only this company, but also countries where we have a mobile telephony.
So that's an example where you took the advice of your friends from college, university, yes. Right? But during your presidency, did you get to also talk to them, talk to regular people? I
didn't have a lot of opportunity to talk to my friends about that because of my life in that time was, my normal life was destroyed, which is a normal, man. You don't have enough time to see your friends. Whenever I had the opportunity, I did it. I mean, I did it, and even today I'm talking with them, but they're attacking me, they're criticizing me because of why you didn't do this, and after that I'm explaining to them the complexity of politics, because people, whenever you are doing something, for you is very difficult to understand why other people are not understanding your topics and your field when you are showing kind of credibility and expertise. When you are playing guitar, you cannot understand why people are totally surprised how you are doing that with accords and that kind of combination, or piano and something like that. When you are singing, everyone is thinking that this is something incredible. But when you are good in that, you cannot understand why those people are so surprised because you are doing this. And this is also for politicians very, very difficult, significant problem, because for us it's quite simple to understand why this is not functioning. But for ordinary people, sometimes they cannot understand how politics is functioning. For example, people cannot understand that you cannot deliver some decisions if those decisions are in accordance with your thoughts, if you don't have a majority for such decisions. In order to get majority, you have to convince people. But not only people that are supporting your politics and your policy, but also people that are not supporting your politics and policy, which means you have to extend your topics, to extend your elaborations, which means you have to not to define strictly your politics, but to make your politics more understandable for majority, for more people, which is very difficult. Many people that were very close to mine politics in the past. I couldn't understand why I'm not doing this strictly in this moment. Because this is okay, that's very, very easy. I can do this, but I'm going to lose majority. And after that, I'm not going to have instruments in my hands to continue reforms. And after that, some totally different people are going to come to the power that are going to destroy everything what we've been doing. And to do totally different and totally different things. That is exactly what is happening right now in Serbia. Many of my friends has been attacking on me just before the elections in 2012. The third time I had an attempt to become President of Serbia that was in accordance with our legal system, and I lost for 70,000 votes. But I lost because of some people that has been supporting me in the past were totally disappointed because why I'm not implementing such reforms immediately. But they couldn't understand. But implementation of such reforms in that time is going to be shortest way to lose majority and to lose power and to stop all kind of reforms we had to implement in the period ahead of us. And that is exactly what happened. We had a so-called group of the people that didn't vote on elections. They said we are against everyone, but in fact they supported my rival by doing this, because in the past they always supported me. But by saying we are neutral, I lost that tiny majority I had 2 times. Which means that was a crystal clear and the shortest way to bring on the power my opponents. And now they are totally shocked what they are doing after 12 years. Why you are shocked? You cannot expect that your behavior is going to be without any outcome in politics. It's not possible. Every political behavior is creating new outcome. They thought, okay, we are such a people that do not want to vote for someone, and we are showing clearly our reserves to both candidates. We are angry about President Tadić because he didn't fulfill our expectations in the short period of time, and we don't have any problem if that man, my opponent in that time, Mr. Nikolic, is going to win. After a few months, they were even happy with that. because President Nikolic was appointing some of them to be ambassadors, to have a kind of significant roles and the positions in our society. But nowadays they are totally shocked about what happened. Do you know what is the outcome of that? They are still attacking on me because they had to vote for someone who is against their politics. But they supported in practical terms them without voting for me in that time and being so-called reserved, having equal distance from both candidates, but in the practice they supported my rival. But that is also politics. In the politics you cannot be neutral. Unfortunately, you cannot be neutral. In life, maybe you can, but in politics, you cannot be neutral.
Yes, but from that episode, do you have advice for other people? You know that there are factions. This is a faction that wanted things to go faster. Is there anything you could have done to convince them not to go? Any lesson from there that somebody who is in a position similar to yours, or might be one day, can take away?
People, not easy to
it's not easy to do.
To understand that. People cannot understand why you cannot make faster reforms always. People cannot understand that faster reforms can bring you in a situation to lose majority. And outcome of that is going to be that reforms are disappearing.
Yeah.
Not only these specific reforms, but all reforms are disappearing. Nowadays, for example, we started to build independent institutions during my term. We appointed people that were in charge for very important, for example, ombudsman, independent financial institutions that have been fighting corruption, independent institutions. We started to do that. We've been facing with a kind of criticism. But the people that came to the power destroyed all of them. And nowadays we don't have such institutions. But those people that has been neutral in political campaigning in 2000, when I lost elections, third time, they are not able even to understand that their behavior, their commitment, was bringing Serbia to lose that kind of independent institutions. But what is a bizarre situation? They insisted that we have to create much more independent institutions during my term that we weren't able to deliver. But outcome of that, nowadays we don't have any more single independent institution. Everything is dependent on one man who is President of Serbia. And this is bizarre situation. This is an incredible situation in terms of politics. And those kind of rules in politics and the standards and the such characteristic of politics are not something that majority of people, many people, even very educated people can understand, which is to me very strange. But that is reality in which we are living. We have to educate people about politics, political system. We have to educate people what is democracy, what is a good and what is a very bad characteristic of democracy. We have to educate people about a kind of bizarre aspect of democracy and political system, reform, centralization process, something like that. This is very, very interesting, and maybe I have to write a book about that and to explain this to the people that should maybe elsewhere.
Maybe
you also were part of the arrest of people who were sent to The Hague in former Yugoslavia. What was the process there? That was also a controversial political decision that could have cost you something. What made you choose to do so in the first place?
That was my conviction that I have to do everything in terms of fulfilling the international obligations. If we want to be member of United Nations, we have to respect rules and the legal system and international law, which is aspect of United Nations multilateral system. And at the same time, that was our law. During the period of even Milosevic, we adopted such a law in our parliament, and which we were a country that was in charge to fulfill all requirements coming from the Hague Tribunal in that time. Accusations, and we had this. That's it. At the same time, in terms of reconciliation process, I understood that my duty is to do some very difficult things. For example, we didn't have a majority in Serbia who truly believe that those people are really responsible for all horrible casualties and the massacres that happened in the war in both Christians and Gleba. And but I understood this is my duty. This is my duty, and Zoran Đinđić was assassinated by secret police of Milosevic, who has been still working during his term. Those people didn't change after democratic changes in Yugoslavia, in Serbia at that time, because of huge problem we had within ruling opposition, ruling coalition. That was opposition before we won in Austria, but the democratic opposition of Serbia. But we didn't have unanimity and unanimous approach to the fighting war fugitives within coalition. But Zoran Đinđić was determined to deliver, and his government arrested Slobodan Milosevic, and they delivered him in the Hague Tribunal, which was very controversial. To arrest your former president and to deliver him in the Hague Tribunal means be sure that you don't have a majority of the people that are supporting that, even though you don't have on your side the people that were fighting Milosevic. But those people didn't believe that we have to deliver him in the Hague Tribunal. They expected that Serbia is going to organize court and procedure and trial in Serbia, and to do that. But to deliver him in Hague Tribunal, this is how we are losing sovereignty. But all of us, all countries that are member state of the United Nations are investing part of their sovereignty in the international system. People cannot understand that.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for ordinary people to understand. And Zoran Đinđić did it. After that, he was killed. And that is for sure the main reason why he was killed.
Yeah.
And after him, I became a president.
Yeah.
And I started to work on that. That was, from my point of view, continuation of our duties. And we did it, and during my term were arrested Karadžić, Mladić, and Hačić. And this is how we completed that story.
Yeah.
But my problem in Serbia nowadays, because during my term, I've been facing with a criticism because if I was doing that. We were doing that. I was supporting government to work on that because that was their duty, and duty of police and intelligence to work on that. I'm not a person who arrested someone.
Yeah.
Because I was president. But that was in accordance with our politics. But at the same time, we didn't have a majority for such decisions. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I lost elections. But okay, I was ready to put risks in my decisions, even risks that are bringing me to lose, in a situation to lose elections. If I truly believe this is crucially important for the future of my country. And that is why I was doing that. And no problem, I lost elections, okay? But the problem is because in Serbia now, the full majority of people truly believe that only Serbia really cooperated with the Hague Tribunal, delivering the Hague Tribunal all war fugitives. And all other countries didn't do that. Or, if some countries did it with a few war fugitives, those people weren't sentenced in the Hague Tribunal, they are right now free persons. Even though full majority of people in Serbia truly believe that those people also were criminals. And it wasn't fair treatment of the Hague Tribunal regarding war fugitives from different parts of Balkan Peninsula. That's it. To be very frank with you, sometimes I was totally shocked how Hague Tribunal was treating those people. Ante Gotovina, for example, Croatian general, who was accused that he was working on ethnic cleansing of Serbs during the military action, so-called Oluja Storm, was released from the Hague Tribunal, from the jail. But that was really bizarre situation. The first run of the trial, 5 judges decided that he's guilty. But second time, when he had a supremacy of the court, they decided 3-2 that he is not guilty. Something like that. Which means 3 judges decided he's not guilty, and 7 altogether that he's guilty, but he's 3% right. I mean, that was in accordance with the law and the rules of the Hague Tribunal, but come on. How to explain this to the Serbian people that was fair process? And right now, this man is a businessman. He has a farm of tunas in the Adriatic Sea, and he's a rich man, really. But his counterparts, the Serbian armed forces, are in the jails. So,
Yeah, how do you explain that?
tricky situation. You cannot explain.
And did you know that would happen? No? Not really.
You
You don't know. You don't know. You have to believe in something.
of course. But that's it.
Yep.
I was facing, for example, with the close relatives of President Karadžić. One day I was drinking coffee at the end. One young woman approached me. He was granddaughter of President Karadžić. Asking why he did it. He was my grandfather. Why you did it? He was a good man. It was very painful. I explained to her, I had to do that. This is necessary because of different dates. You're truly going to believe that he's innocent. There are so many evidence he's not. As a country, we had to cooperate with the Hague Tribunal because we are member state of the United Nations, and this is also in accordance with our law, which was adopted, which was implemented in our legal system by Slobodan Milosevic ruling pact. If you expecting that Serbian president, in the moment I was president of Serbia, is not respecting legal system, his own country, this is totally bizarre situation. This is impossible. And that is, I have to make a decision. That's it.
Easy. You have to make tricky decisions that you don't know if they work or not.
Of course, this is you. I mean, to be president, a prime minister of some country, is bringing you in totally unpredictable situations. But that's it. But I truly believe that was the right decision. But the problem is a court in the faith. Who wasn't fair enough.
What advice do you have for young people who want to look up to your story, want to be leaders, whether presidents, prime ministers, members of parliament?
You know what I think? I mean, you have, before entering in politics, young people has to think about their ability to keep their own way of thinking, to be able to refuse all highly challenging demands for them. Sometimes people are putting you in a difficult situation to get a lot of benefits regarding your decisions. Is it because of being a really fair politician, a really fair president, prime minister, and a leader? We have to refuse all kinds of benefits and to be strictly oriented towards your responsibility, towards your political agenda, with which you came to the power. Because people, by voting for you, supported your political agenda, which you describe to that, you are taking responsibility to fulfill what you did promising to them. Before entering the politics, you have to think about that. Are you able to follow that agenda? To follow what I was explaining to you right now, which is very important. This is very important. Are you going to be able to be in accordance with the Rudyard Kipling poem? To be man. To be man who is able to refuse all kind of challenges, all kind of offers, and to suffer because of following his own destiny and its own agenda. This is very, very important.
What did you do to refuse? Why did you refuse all those offers that were offered you?
Because this is the way how my father and my mother and were teaching me how to behave in a such situation. And that is the reason why Dave Partisan has been teaching that. This is something that you are bringing from your family there. Oh, that's it. It's easy to be very bureaucratic. But this is easy. If you are not bureaucratic, that is going to be tough journey.
And is there anything you wish you had known when you stepped into that office of the presidency back in 2004? Anything from hindsight that would have made things different, that would have made you wiser?
Well, you're getting a lot of benefits from that position. Only by this is really privilege in terms of in your intellectual development. I mean, otherwise, if you are not in position to talk with such interesting and different people from all around the world, and you're not going to be in a situation to understand better, well, the way how I was understanding world and the difference between people before becoming president and after that is something very specific, and also you are able to understand what is a state, what is an association of the people, and how that is functioning. Also, states are behaving like human beings. Of course, people are running the states, but they're investing a lot of energy and a lot of their own characteristics, psychological characteristics, and you can consider also states as a kind of human being with a lot of stereotypes, hypocrisies, like ordinary human beings. States are full of the stereotypes. And a state is navigating its own opinion, decisions also in accordance with the stereotypes. At a deep place, we are talking about deep state. But deep state is something good. But deep state is something very bad. Because in the deep state anchored, deep state is containing the memories and traumas, and that are somehow changing attitude to the challenges states are facing in the real time. And for example, I was Minister of Defense when the Kosovo Albanians started to organize pogrom against Serbs on Kosovo, 2003. And they started to do that because of wrong information that some Serbian kids had been attacking us Albanian kids and putting them in the river and they died. The reason why that happened was a kind of ball. And they were following ball that someone was throwing ball in the river. They tried to take the ball that some of them most of their lives. We did have the Serbian kids around.
Yeah.
But that was a wrong bad information, which was published by CNN. huge CNN. But that was a triggering pogrom against Serbs. Many of them were killed. That was burdening our churches. And that was few weeks horrible situation with the Serbian people on Kosovo at the Kip. As a Minister of Defense, I was struggling immediately to have in that time, Secretary General of the NATO, Jan de Hofscheffer in Bratislava, where was a NATO summit. And I was trying to explain to him, you have to react, you have to defend Serbian people right now. You've been fighting against Serbia during the war, a few years before that, 4 years before that. But right now you have to defend that. He didn't trust me. Because he was deeply anchored in the previous situation. And he considered Serbia as an enemy. As a Secretary General of the NATO. He wasn't able to escape from that mental prison. And he didn't know what to do. I was trying to explain to him, I saw him body language that he didn't trust me. I explained to him, I'm not a fellow Milosevic. We were fighting Milosevic. We defeated him. He didn't trust me. No reaction. Day by day, Albanian criminals, suppose, has been killing Serbs, ordinary Serbs. That was horrible. I didn't know what to do. And finally I found the person with which I was able to talk. That was NATO General, Admiral Gregory Johnson, leading person in Naples, in the Southern Command of NATO in that time. Who I met a few weeks before that, explaining to him how I'm trying to reform armed forces of Yugoslavia, Serbia at that time. That was sort of Serbia-Montenegro at that time. We changed the name of the country every few years after October the 5th. And I was explaining to him what's going on, what is happening. He was listening, and I didn't see any reaction. But finally he reacted. He was going Kosovo, he was instructing the American soldiers to brutally block Albanian extremists, and that was the evidence. But look, these two totally different approaches. Next Secretary NATO, General Secretary of the NATO, and American. And this army has been fighting my country during the war against that. He was fighting, but he understood he has to escape from that, I called mental prison, and to change attitude. But he was defending ordinary people with it. And he was hero from my point of view. It's very important to make a kind of mental change, revolution in your own mind, which is very difficult. Very difficult, to be such a flexible and intelligent person and to make that kind of step. Amazing. Admiral Jones, a real leader. A real leader. Jan de Hofscheffer was a leader.
To finish up, so you need to escape the mental prison of your mind if you want to be a leader. The mental constraints that you put yourself under. And what advice do you have for young people from Serbia who wants to enact changes in the country?
Will come to my office and to listen what I'm going to tell them. And that would be very helpful to them. Also to hear my self-criticism.
Thank you very much for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
And thank you for finishing the first episode of the Politically Active podcast. Now I'd like to say a few words. One is what this whole thing is about. Like, there'll be a video or a special episode about the why, how, and what behind this whole project. But a few things. One is the main purpose here is learn and listen to stories. Stories about politics, being politically active. And it doesn't have to be a president. It can be an activist, a journalist, anybody whose life is touched by politics. And the main point is to learn. There'll be people from different parts of the world. People that you may agree with or disagree with. You may find some common ground and have no common ground in some areas. And that is to be expected here. This is not meant to endorse people. It's not meant to take a political stance one way or the other, but meant to be a vehicle of understanding, a vehicle of learning, and hearing some case studies. Now, special thanks is to Boris Tadić, and I'm incredibly grateful. Me being a boy from Sarajevo, a Bosnian, a Bosniak as well, and having the first episode with Boris was incredibly special. And this is the first episode we recorded in July of 2024, which is also important when you're dating some of the things that are mentioned in the pod. And so there's a tremendous amount of gratitude that I will have and do hold for Boris taking so much time and honestly answering these questions. This led to, other episodes, other guests also answering questions. Honestly, but this was the first start. And gave the idea gave birth to the idea. That made it real. And I'd like to end with the poem Boris mentioned, namely the one by Rudyard Kipling. And it goes, if you keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knobs to make a trap for fools, or was the things that gave your life too broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you, except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Thank you for watching.